death of President Gamal Abdel Nasser after 18 years in power devastated Egypt and the entire Arab world. His successor, Vice President Anwar Sadat, was considered little more than a figurehead.
Those in Nasser's inner circle thought they could steer policy on the course set by Nasser, and they were confident that Sadat would follow the party line.
The funeral was a grand occasion for the leaders of the Arab states and Nasser's Soviet allies. Nasser had severed relations with America, so the representative from Washington assumed he would be ignored.
Then a soldier came into the room, weaving his way through the crowd. Apparently, it turned out heading for me.
The soldier led Richardson away, out of the sight of the world's press and the watchful eye of the KGB.
I was trained to spot anything that was going on, but it was difficult in that chaos.
We went down the stairs. The lower floor was darkened, and propped up in the hospital bed was the man who had just inherited the presidency of Egypt.
President Sadat was resting away from the crowds after apparently suffering from heat stroke.
He said that he wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to turn a new page in the relationship between our countries.
The next day, Sadat put on a show for the American media. Egypt was a Soviet client state. Sadat considered Israel to be an American one.
The United States provide Israel from the loaf of bread to the phantom to the even deficit in the budget itself. So it is the vein of life. Vein of life for Israel goes from the United States.
Sadat didn't want to negotiate with Israel himself. He wanted the Americans to intervene, to deliver to Egypt the territories lost in 1967. In the 3 years since the war, Israel had established a formidable defense line along the Suez Canal, 70 miles from Cairo.
What are you doing?
I'm getting ready to blast you Israelis.
Why?
Because you Israelis occupy our land.
The Suez Canal had been closed since 1967. Sadat now told the Americans that if Israel moved back a few miles from the canal, he would reopen it, even to ships trading with Israel. Sadat's proposal followed statements made by Moshe Dayan, Israel's defense minister. Dayan said that the Sinai should eventually be returned to Egypt.
What we say is that we sit there just because the war is going on. But once you agree to make peace agreement, we don't think that we should sit on your Suez Canal.
Golda Meir didn't want to negotiate through the Americans. She wanted direct talks with Sadat. In Washington, President Nixon looked for the right person to urge Sadat's proposal on Golda Meir. He chose Joe Sisko.
I can recall the words to this day. He said, "Joe, press Golda. Press her hard, but don't cause a major Donnybrook between Israel